Praise the Content Gods episode 2 because now it has to be a series. Now we got a second one. And appropriate because my brother in praising the content gods, Neo Cards and Comics. Neo, how are you?
You officially have more episodes than SGC podcast.
See, I was going to make that joke and it hurts my soul that you beat me to it by
no.
5 seconds.
You said you had a joke off the top.
No, that's not the only one. Neo,
okay.
Neo, it's me. Like the jokes per capita will be only Deadpool can touch me on jokes per capita, especially in this genre. Like that's not my A material, but that was definitely what I was going to bring up. By episode 2, we did it. We got there. But no, what I figured we'd do is praising the content gods is appropriate, especially since you have 2 embraced praising the content gods. Also, I have it in the corner logo. Oh, gotta have it there. But right there, you got it. You nailed it. So we're gonna chat a little bit about. Victor was episode 1, so you're gonna be episode 2 here, and we're gonna appropriately timed. We're on the cusp of the national, like Shark Week, but lamer. But great for the content. That's going to be a thing. And then also very appropriate because you had an interview with Ryan Hoge of PSA that we can talk about a little bit, how that came about. But also, of course, you got some pushback in the comments because I do love checking the comment section. I love me the comment section. So we'll touch on that. But Neo, what I figured is since people want to hear about that, why don't we talk about the 1990s Cleveland Indians for about 10 minutes, and then we'll get to what people actually want to talk about.
I'll go 90s Indians. We could go the whole hour long this thing's going to go.
Yes, but I just figured I would do that because then it'll really annoy people. We can do that for 10 minutes and then we'll actually talk about what people want to talk about. And by the way, I can talk 90s Indians because I remember that too well.
If I look down, I have a bunch of right now on my desk row is 2 Manny Essential Credentials and a cut above Manny and Manny City Skylines.
Amazing. See, the potential is there, people. Just let know. Don't tempt me. I can do it. But what I'm hoping for is in the course of this conversation, Neo will give me other clips because then I can add it to my soundboard.
I'm evil. I figured that's already that one at least once or twice.
I had to. I was contractually obligated. It's too good. I already have it sitting there like it's ready to go. All right. I'll spare the people the suspense, but let's talk about this. Okay. So you had the conversation with Ryan Hoge, and of course the comments section was filled with endless effusive praise. No, universal acclaim, I think. I think that's how it went down. I'll double check, but I think that's what it was. But obviously, so the first question really comes down to, and kind of give us the Cole's Nose version of this, the timing was one of the things that kind of led to a lot of the questions. Because at the same time, so SGC Pete, the artist formerly known as SGC Pete, steps down from SGC and kind of leaves that section. He kind of leaves in silence with a statement, but almost with perfect timing, there's Neo Cards and Comics with Ryan Hoge, president of PSA, czar of grading, king of all that he sees. But so how does the timing lead into that? How do we end up in a situation where we've got that recording?
Speaking of Victor, your first guest, he had a funny comment on that video, like right after it posted. He's like, "Oh, I saw the SGC news. I wonder if Neo has a video up." Then he's like, "Oh, nope, he just has an entire interview with the president of PSA."
Well, for the record, in episode 1, Neo, you were referenced because as I was talking to Victor and he talked about, your timeliness with that, I said, well, Victor, you don't even understand. Neo's already making a response video to this and we're not even done recording.
Yeah.
That's how far ahead he is of the game. He's there. Yeah. So how did this come about?
So quickly, I'll say that for some background. So that was on Thursday. The night before was Off-Centered. Shortly before Off-Centered, I was actually talking to them about the Geoff Wilson repack stuff. And then this just kind of fell in the lap, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it was essentially like, hey, we're going to have this going on. Do you want me to come on and talk about this? And I was like, sure. And at that point, I didn't necessarily know everything. I knew that it was SGC related and that Peter was leaving. But that was really, I just knew it at a very high level. And we actually recorded that after Off-Centered because Ryan's West Coast and I'm East Coast. So it actually kind of worked out timing wise. So I think I finished recording and editing that at like 1 a.m. On Wednesday heading into Thursday. And then right before we recorded, the little pre-StreamYard stuff, I got the hey, this is what's going on full info. So I was kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of flying by the seat of my pants on that one. Normally, like I've had guests on the channel before, and it's usually days ahead of time, sometimes a day, a couple of days ahead of time. And I usually like to prep at least an outline of kind of what I want to get into. And then usually I'll send that to the guest. And I've interviewed PSA people multiple times, SGC Pete twice,
Mhm.
Beckett once, CGC a couple of times, and a handful of other people. And I've never had restrictions put on me by any, I've never been said, like, you can't ask this or this is off
Mhm.
topic or whatever. But as a courtesy to the guest, I'll send them an outline of like, here's roughly what I'm looking at talking about. And I'll
Mhm.
usually put, we may get all these topics, we may hit none of them. I usually have the outline and then I just let conversation go where it leads us.
Mhm. Sure.
So, like I said, that came together very quickly. I was kind of flying by the seat of the pants. And then the only restriction I had was, and just loosely, and it makes sense, is don't post this until the SGC announcement goes out.
Mhm.
As soon as you see the SGC announcement go out, it should be around 10 ish tomorrow morning. You're free to post it, which I don't know how many people realize this. Embargoes, air quote, are very common in media. I don't know,
Mhm.
like in YouTube content, sports world, not that much, but I've had them before. There's been certain things that I've known, or hey, we'll tell you this, but you can't do anything with it until X time. Like that's very commonplace in the real world. I
Mhm.
don't know in the sports card, back end world.
Yeah, we're kind of loose on this side. So I was saying to Neo just before we hit record is that just as an analogy, and I mentioned folks, I've got and it's funny because Neo has gotten into getting some wrestling cards, and I have my second YouTube channel that I literally just play around with. It's a small channel, I have fun with it, but it's strictly wrestling cards is basically what I talk about on there, which I enjoy. But one of the things is literally this past week, I had Billy Cilio from Upper Deck, product manager, senior product manager, who does a lot of the AEW stuff with Upper Deck. So obviously that's something we have in common, something we share. He actually collects the cards and we always chat and all that. But the point is, we had a conversation where we talked about the upcoming releases, the next series of the next couple of releases. There's going to be one in a couple of weeks here, Metal Universe. The thing is, while we're having the conversation, he's checking the checklist to confirm if some names are there, kind of as we're going back and forth. I'm talking about the roster and certain people on there. The thing is, we're recording this, and it's a small thing, and it's a minor thing, kind of playing to what Neil was talking about. The question he asked me, he goes, well, when are you posting this? Because within a day or so of us having the conversation, the checklist went live and some of the images went live. So a lot of the stuff. So on my thumbnail, I actually had the images that the Upper Deck PR and marketing team released the very next day. So my thumbnail already had it, basically ready to go, but it posted the same day as the checklist. And just do that as a courtesy. You're being asked at the end of the day. I could literally have just asked for the checklist, and I would have had it 24 hours early. But it's a courtesy. They asked if I could hold off, and it wasn't a big deal. One day in that case, not a big deal. And again, it's a checklist. The world doesn't end if I post a checklist less than 24 hours before it's live, but it's to give them the opportunity. They're being nice enough to give me answers to questions that I'm asking. The least I can do is follow that. But that's to your point. That's basically an embargo. That's really what it is. It's a request to can you hold it off until this happens.
Yeah. And sometimes chaos reigns and embargoes get broken by other people, and then it's a free for all. But you know,
Absolutely. So kind of playing into that. So you get this. It's kind of a last minute thing. So now I'm going to get into. We'll get straight to the meat and potatoes of it. The thing gets posted. SGC Pete's, hidden statement. We don't know where SGC Pete is. We assume he's trapped in Bobble's closet because he could very well still be to this very day. He's in witness protection. There's a lot going on. The problem, and I think twofold. Let's address kind of the scripting question that the comment section talked about. It's the timing. It's that it was immediately ready. That's one of the things people key in on, and we just talked about why that would be the case. But the other part of it is because you're going into it, and you did mention this in some responses to some folks. You're not necessarily a trained interviewer, so to speak. And in this case, to your point, you had no real prep. It's kind of a quick turnaround. We're going to go straight into it. I'm going to ask you a question, but then I'm also going to get into the comments. If you had had that prep, now knowing basically what the comment was, and now knowing what Ryan actually said, is there any follow up, anything you would like to have asked in terms of that with a little bit more information, a little lead time?
see, now I got to think about that for a hot minute.
Yeah.
The only thing I might have went maybe dug a little bit deeper on is like how he views the SGC consumer confidence after all this. Like, what does he
Mm-hmm.
kind of think that? Yeah, they could say, however, if boutique greater this, they're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is an aspect of just Pete leaving is going to undermine some of the confidence that people have in SGC, given everything else that we've seen over the last few months of kind of like the slow death, whether PSA wants to say that or not.
Mm-hmm.
How do they view keeping that brand loyalty there when they've kind of like undercut a lot of that brand loyalty over the last, I don't know, what, 9 months maybe. Turnaround
Mhm,
times have gotten longer. Specials went away. Bulk submission went away. Pete's
mhm,
gone. Now you're saying you're down, right sizing the team. You know, so I might have went a little bit deeper on that, but
mhm. Sure. So the thing is, what's funny about it, the irony of all of this, and I did this a little bit on the live, recording this on the Saturday, but I last night when we were talking about it, is that I could make the business justification. So obviously I was having more fun with it. We were talking more about SGCP being locked in Brandon's closet. It was excellent. We enjoyed it very much. But the point is that I can make the business case justification for a lot of the stuff they're doing. A lot of the things they're doing are probably the business move that I would make. Like if they sat there and say, "Hey, Carlos, come in and consult. What would you do?" A lot of the things they're doing, I actually would follow the same blueprint. However, and this is where I think the question comes into play. And we were joking about it in the chat back and forth a little bit. That I'm trying to steal your views, and I kind of am. But the thing is that I still think, and this is something I've talked to Brad Hartland on the PSA Canada side. I still think that PSA and collectors in general still doesn't understand how to play this. They don't understand that in the space they're in, they're operating as the company that you're the 800-pound gorilla, yes, but you're like King Kong, and a lot of people actually want to take you down. They actually don't like you being the 800-pound gorilla, so you can't act like you're this beloved figure in the space and act that way when you're doing a lot of your PR stuff. You almost have to kind of think about what you're doing. In this case, Pete is got this vision. A lot of people look at him as this front-facing guy for SGC. He was part of the underdog, the little engine that could, and then it got absorbed into the behemoth, and then he kind of disappeared. And that disappearing thing, because he was on the milk carton for months leading into, it's not like he was around right up until the last minute.
I mean, you could argue he still is.
That's right. But the thing is, that disappearing, coupled with the fact he had been so front facing up until that point, and then the entire resignation is basically a post on SGC's Instagram. It leaves room for people to be like, okay, so were you forced out? Like, where are you? Are you in Brandon's closet? Is that what happened? Like, what is the act? So now people have to fill in their own narrative. And then in this case, and that's why the point that I was making was PSA should be using, for me, my opinion was, interviews like the one you're doing are a supplement. PSA should have already had their stuff ready to go, and then you are supplementing it to it. PSA could have also had its own statement as well. Hoge could have done a quick thing. Hey, by the way, I'm just laying this out for you. And then your conversation builds on that. He gives a couple of points, and then you go from there, and then you ask the follow-up questions and add the additional. Then it doesn't feel like you're just the PR department, the PR arm of PSA, because he's basically giving you a statement, and you kind of have to then react to it in real time. And he's right in front of you. You can ask your question, but okay, you got 30 seconds. What's the
Yeah.
follow-up question?
Yeah. And we talked about this pre-show and it's in the comments too. I think sometimes people forget, and I don't want to speak for YouTube content community as a whole. I mean, most of us didn't go to school for this. Like you know, I play a journalist on YouTube, but I'm not actually a journalist. Someone actually responded in a comment. They're like, I think people forget that these guys are not actually trained journalists. They're just content creators on YouTube that talk into a microphone. Like that, the comment
Mhm.
wasn't that deep, but that's essentially the gist of it. Like I've never been formally trained on how to interview somebody. Like
Mhm.
my interview training ends at watching Hot Ones.
Well, high praise. You should have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, and you probably would have been fine. But
Yes,
unfortunately, he didn't give you the chance. It was like,
for
but
sure.
that's why I say, like, I pose the question. But I think the point that I'm getting at here is I think that collector still hasn't clued in that they have to take a little bit of ownership of the perception game. They can't rely on the influencers to do it for them unless there's some help. You pretty much have to set people up in a place of success. Otherwise, it does feel like a PR piece. And I think you can agree that it feels like that if you're looking at it from the outside without context, does it not feel like a PR piece?
For sure. I mean, in some regards, from their perspective, it probably was a PRP. Like, you know what I mean? They're
Yep.
they're very
Mhm.
specific on why they're they came on with me, they came on with, I think, Mike and Jesse over at SCN. I don't know if he did
Yeah.
appearances anywhere else, but
Yeah, I heard the sports card nonsense one for sure. And similar
yeah.
thing, similar responses, similar. I think they said a couple of things on there that were a little bit different, but for the most part, a lot of the main talking points were very much the same.
Yeah, and I almost wonder, and you could take the PSA out of this because other companies have kind of done similar things to this. I wonder if they don't want to post it on their own because they don't want it to be a bigger deal than it actually what they view it as, if that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
in the company's mind, an employee left. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
how many companies are going to release a news PR piece about an employee leaving a company? So if they use the more niche audiences that actually care about this stuff as their outlet for it, then it just stays within that niche and it doesn't become even a bigger thing than maybe they want it to. You know, I don't know for sure. This is me 1000% speculating, but you know, we've all talked before that the hobby sports cards specifically, the YouTube verse is actually quite small in the grand scheme of things,
Mhm.
like
It is.
compared to the outside world. I think you even commented it. I was in and out of the live last night of I think it might have been you that said like, or maybe it was Brandon, I don't remember. How many people that submit to SGC actually know that this happened?
Yeah, I did that in a video and also in the live. I did a
Okay.
separate standalone video, and my point was, I feel people don't understand how small the hobby social media. And I'll include Instagram. I'll include, and
Yeah.
by the way, I get information from Instagram too. I'll see a story and somebody will mention something. Sometimes that's how I see something initially. Somebody does like a IG story and it links to something, and their Sports Collectors Daily or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's how I'll pick up on some stuff. But it's still small. I have to be following those accounts. Otherwise, there's no way that I would see it if I don't follow the accounts. And obviously, I don't use Twitter, but if I did, that's another avenue where some people convey their information, but it's still small. All these accounts are small. And I agree with you. I think your premise is fine, but I think where they misunderstand, and this is my take on it, I think they misunderstand though how very attached and really illogical a lot of people's response to it is. And I think in the attempt to try to keep it niche, again, you actually give them more ammunition. You basically throw fuel to the fire, so they actually react more strongly to it than if you just kind of. So to them, Pete is not just an employee. So and I get their perspective. From the company perspective, I agree with you. The company perspective, Peter Steinberg, obviously he was very talented, did a lot of what he needed to do. SGC got to the point it was because of what Peter Steinberg did. But from collector standpoint, they got what they needed out of him. They did what they needed to do, and then they felt like it was time to move on, and they were good to go. And probably Peter was ready to go, or whatever the case may be. We won't know because again, we need to find him. The milk carton is still out there. But until you find out from Peter Steinberg, you won't actually know. I think he's fine wherever he is. I think he's okay, but we don't know that. And because we don't know that, it creates that room for people to fill in the blanks.
But that room stays small because of the way that they release the information. Whereas if they do it on their own platforms to larger potential audiences, to more eyeballs, then the room gets bigger. The room was always going to be the same size. Like people that were going to go down conspiracy theory corner on everything, that's going to happen no matter what. So why not keep it to just that segment of the building? You know, if that makes sense.
Mhm. No, I think there's an argument to be made for it. I don't necessarily disagree. I think it's an interesting thing though that I think sometimes I think they still haven't figured out how to read the room. So there is a happy medium maybe there's a medium in there. And again, they're inconsistent because we talked about the PSA podcast. They've got one. And to their credit, they got to episode 2. So I'm very proud of them. But even then, it's inconsistent. It'll appear some weeks, it'll not appear some weeks. Sometimes they'll talk about the backlog. Sometimes they'll talk about sometimes the last one was talking about comics. Okay, cool, but you also have a backlog. The turnaround time's coming back. And again, for your discussion for the SGC, how much confidence are you instilling? Because there's already a lot of people that will use PSA reluctantly because, well, it's the biggest player in the space. The thing is, they don't trust you. Maybe the nicest way to put it, they don't trust anything you say. So it's like you kind of have to show me. So now your actions are going to have to do the talking because, yeah, you can say you're going to do it. And to me, I think there is money to be made if you do run it as the boutique, focus on the vintage, its core competencies that they have background in, they have history. If SGC still grades vintage and still does that well, I think there's an audience that would be okay with that. And if you want to do a little bit of ultra modern, but you can get the turnaround time to a reasonable level and keep the price point reasonable, I actually think there's enough people that would still submit that it could be a viable side business to it, even though it's a lemonade stand at PSA HQ.
Yeah, and this is me talking, not anything that from the interview or any background information or anything. I honestly believe that I don't think that they actually know 100% what it's going to turn into. I think
Mhm.
they are going to kind of let the market decide, and if they get enough submissions to justify it turning into that, then that's what it'll be. If they don't, then I don't know. You know, as
Sure.
long as the
Okay.
numbers are green on the spreadsheet, I think SGC will exist in some shape or form.
Yeah. I think ironically though, with the scaling back of it, I think it's actually got a better chance of staying green because they've cut off a lot of the access, and it basically seems streamlined. I could easily see them being in that complex, and you've got the person wearing the SGC hat and the PSA hat, and they can put one on and take the other one off anytime they need it, and they can shift from one side of the room to the other. I could very easily see that being viable for them, because then you've got one employee who's available for both scenarios if you need them. As long.
I just wonder, a lot of SGC's business was is that they were not PSA. I mean,
Yep.
SGC is a very good company, but a lot of their hardcore was this is not PSA. And I don't know, after this week, do those folks still view them as not PSA?
Mm-hmm.
Because
And that
they
goes
feel
back though.
more PSA now than they ever have. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
that they report directly to Ryan Hoge, who is the president of grading at PSA, or whatever his new title is. You know.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to your previous statement, though, if my theory from my video in the live is correct, and most people have no idea what's going on most of the time, they could still think Dave Foreman runs SGC. They could still think Pete's still there, and maybe they have no idea who Pete is, and it
Yeah, they
wasn't
don't even know
him
who
that was
Peter
brought.
is.
Yeah, so it could just be a matter of like, oh yeah, the tux. Can I still get the tux? Yes. How's the price point? Fine. What's the turnaround time? About 3 weeks. All right, good enough. Great.
Yeah.
And if they can manage to maintain that, then ignorance might be bliss. That might be good enough. It gets the job. So that'll be what I think needs to play out now. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
This next month, I don't think is going to be the telltale, the next gem rate data. It's going to be maybe one or two more down the road where we start to actually see what the real change is.
Yeah, and I think it actually could be longer than that, because those numbers lag almost a month behind the news to a degree, because he's seeing the numbers as they hit the pop report, not as the admission, like, submissions are coming in. So the stuff that's hitting the pop report this month was probably actually submitted last month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there's a little bit of lag time there, and then this news will have to filter down, and then, so it could be end of the year before we really kind of have a good idea. I do expect the numbers to trend down. I think we don't see where they floor, where it's like, oh, okay, they've done this same number 3 months in a row now for probably quite a while. Like, that's going to take maybe till the end of the year till we see.
I can see it. Yeah,
consistently, like, oh, okay, their new floor is 30,000 cards a month. I don't know, 50,000 cards. I have no idea.
I think their goal should be to match Beckett. Right there, just go for it. Just match Beckett.
I think I agree with the video that Brandon put out yesterday. I think they actually probably want to be smaller than Beckett.
Possible. It's possible.
I mean, if they're going back to 2017, 2018, 2019, they weren't that big of a grading team back then.
It was, yeah. It was very small. Yeah.
So, and if they also are going to double down on the boutique niche, I mean, how many people are sending in pre-war vintage cards every month to be graded? I can't imagine that number is huge.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the points I made. If you're focusing in on that, then you don't need as much capacity, because if you're submitting vintage cards, you're probably not cracking and resubbing a ton. I don't expect that to be a normal thing for them. That's more of an ultra modern thing. And ultra modern was never the strong suit of SGC, but their growth was built on growing that ultra modern side, because every time Topps releases a new set, there's more potential cards for you to grade. And that's how you built it. And then TCG has been the big growth area, but SGC really didn't get in on that. They tried, but they didn't really make inroads. CGC is actually doing well with TCG. They're doing much better with that than they are sport. The irony is they're the opposite. And if CGC could figure out how to finally make some inroads in sports card, that could make things interesting, because they have the resources.
I said in my video yesterday, and I posted it on Twitter too, I think the biggest what if in the hobby is if CGC would have bought SGC. I shouldn't say in the hobby, in the grading landscape, the biggest what if is CGC not pulling the trigger to buy SGC instead of PSA / collectors.
Well, I like to think that the biggest what if in the hobby is if Josh Rosen got bonked in the head, gets back out there for football, and I'm a multimillionaire in a mega yacht. Trust me.
Grading.
But I'm saying in the hobby. In the hobby, my scenario is definitely what it is. It would be incredible. I'd have a spaceship. I'd have a flying saucer, Neo. I have so much money. Elon Musk, who? But anyway, so that's part of the question. So let me ask you one more question on that, and then I'll shift over to a different topic. So now, given this, and obviously I also mentioned that I had done the conversation with Upper Deck, my approach to it, so I'll just quickly give my approach, but then I've got a question for you. My approach to it is I try to put myself, in this case I put myself in the chair of the collector. So when I'm asking the question, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, this is what I'm seeing, this is what you guys are providing, and that's where a lot of the conversation went. I go, this is the part I'm having trouble with, or I'm disappointed in. And in this case, it was for them, just to give highlights, it was the release schedule The license that we were talking about was more of a niche license, and they only release about 3 products a year, give or take. And I said, well, that's a little frustrating, not just because, yeah, I'd like to get some more cards, but also the cadence was all over the place. Like they have a release in April, and then the next release got delayed a little bit, but the problem is the next release isn't coming out until August. And then a couple of months go by, and the next one should be in September, and then we think one in January, but it's all over the place. It's back and there's no consistent cadence, and because of that, from the collectors, how do you get hyped up for these products? You know they're coming eventually, someday, at some point. Now, Upper Deck is not exclusive to this because I made that point to them. I said, well, you're not the only ones. Fanatics, in its infinite wisdom and infinite resources and having printing facilities and everything, the WWE folks are still waiting for the follow up. They've had Topps Chrome. They've had, Sapphire, which really is Topps Chrome. They've
Yeah.
had the Cactus Jack thing at WrestleMania. Well, there was supposed to be a Cactus Jack hobby release. Well, my understanding is that WWE has had a little bit of a falling out with Travis Scott and a lot of those folks. So that may or may not matter. But the point is, where's the Cactus Jack follow up? And Fanatics hasn't said anything. They don't even have a Neo Cards and Comics as the PR arm to tell us what's going on. So they're not exclusive. So my point though is all the questions were from the perspective of the collector in this case, and that's the angle that I took on it. My question to you is this. When it comes to these interviews, you've got a channel now of the size where you do have some access. And we'll come back to the channel size in a minute as well, but because it plays in some things. You have the access though. You have the conversation with it was the general manager of comics, or I forget how it was, pop culture.
Elizabeth is her title is GM of pop culture, so comics, TCG, Funko, all that stuff falls under her.
Perfect. So that was about a week ago, give or take. So you had that conversation, which covered the comics of Neo Cards and Comics. But then you had the conversation with Ryan Hoge about this. And then you've had Nat on the channel before. And you've talked about also some of those other companies that you had. So you've got a channel of enough where they see value in coming on with the platform you've got to speak. So my question is, so whose perspective then, when you're having these conversations, are you trying to take? Is it the collector's perspective? Like with the Upper Deck one, I take the collector's perspective. That's where my questions are coming from, which I think gives it the direction the questions go. But what direction are you trying to do when you're talking to these folks about whatever it is that they happen to be discussing with you?
I usually try to go with like what I am seeing in the comment sections and like the chatter on social of like what people are wanting to hear. And sometimes that's collector based, sometimes it's more news based, sometimes it's more businessy stuff. I try to thread the needle of the business aspects of the hobby with what
Mm,
the collectors are looking for. Like when I had eBay on, I had a lot of questions about like auto pay and non-payment and things like that because that's stuff people like it was a problem and it still kind of is to a degree.
mm,
um when I had Nat on, it was, or when I had, what, just Ryan recently, this week, the PSA backlog's a problem. That was my first question. Hey, can you give
mm,
us an update on the backlog? Because I'm still seeing a lot of chatter on the backlog stuff. And then the back half of that interview was me just trying to get a little bit of information on how some stuff's performing. Like he had a good, I asked him about like how's the comic book submissions been, and he threw out a number like they've gotten almost 10,000 submissions already in comic books. And that's, for a lot of people that might be nothing, but in my mind that's good information on the businessy aspect of things, that's how many submissions that they've gotten already in just 2 weeks.
mm,
um so it really depends on the guest as well and the company and kind of what's going on with them at that point in time. Like when I had Nat on, there really wasn't, that was at the end of last year. I mean, PSA always has a little bit of drama around them, but they were kind of in a quiet period for them at the time. So it was
mm,
much more of a kind of state of the union of, you guys have had a lot of updates this year. Let's kind of run through them. And then another big part of that interview was getting previews of what was coming. Like a lot of the stuff that we talked about when I had Nat are things that they've kind of formally announced over the last couple of months. Like we had a big talk around PSA offers and what it could turn into, and direct to eBay grading. We talked about that because I think that hadn't launched yet, but it was coming. So he gave a lot of information on that. So it was like forward focusing things that are going to be coming down the line. So you can kind of start getting ideas of like where they're taking that business entity. So it I kind of try to tailor it depending on the audience, the company, and kind of what's going on in the zeitgeist at the moment with them. Because sometimes you have someone on and there's really not a lot going on with them. And sometimes you have someone on and they're in the crosshairs, and it's a little bit of a different story.
Hmm. Okay, I think that's fair. So, like you said, you're trying to thread the needle a little bit with it. So you're trying to play kind of almost that neutral party kind of with the question, and it is based on whatever's going on there. So I think that answers a lot of how basically the question, the direction on the line of questioning. So I think that's fair.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, generally, I think I do. I get criticism for this and praise for this. Is that I do think I am fairly neutral on most things. Like I try to stay on center, and I know people want you to either love something unconditionally or just kind of hate something unconditionally. And if you're in the middle on stuff, a segment of the audience doesn't like that. But I think
mhm.
it benefits me more than it hurts me because I think I am fair. Like if you know Tops or PSA does something dumb, I'll make the video. I don't have a problem making the video about it. But if they do something that I think is actually decent, I'll make the video saying, like, this is actually, I think, a pretty good idea for whatever, insert whatever company that you want here. And I think when it comes to the mega corporations, a segment of the audience just wants you to hate everything regardless of what they do because they view them as the evil empire. And they may be, but if they do something I think is actually kind of cool, then I'm gonna give them credit for that. But I'm also not afraid to be like, hey guys, you did something pretty stupid here. Like, what are you doing?
Right. I think it's fair. So kind of follow up to that. You mentioned kind of the response that you get, and kind of so let's talk about the comment section for a minute. One of my favorite things. Great Joys is wonderful. So obviously I've talked about we're on a Discord. Dustin's there as well, and Bobbles is there, and a lot of folks, and Hermit in the distance, Dakota, formerly known as Sports Card Anonymous. I think he's on the run with SGCP is what I think is going on. Like I think they're
What
both.
supposedly he's going to be at the National next week for a day.
I think we're gonna need pictures. This is like a Sasquatch. It's gonna be like a blurry picture.
There's a scheduled lunch. I won't believe it until I see him sit down across the table from me. I've never met Dakota in person.
Okay, this should be fun.
For all I
And you
know,
get
he's AI generated. I don't know.
he might be like, but I kind of secretly hope that as time has gone on, he's just gone more feral. So I'm just hoping that by the time you see him, he's like you can't even recognize the image that was him. Now he's just a caveman, and that's all you see. And that's kind of what I'm hoping. So the
I can
group
see it.
photo will
Yeah,
be
he
great.
had the beard rocking for a while. Maybe he still does.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm looking forward to the group photo. I think that would be fabulous. It'll be wonderful. So, comment section here. Obviously, like you mentioned, and we sometimes on that Discord, you and Dustin will share some of your more colorful responses and comments because the people, of course, are people of peace, as you all know. Unconditional love and understanding, and a lot of that. So no, not so much. Here's the question though: engagement is engagement. So, and this is gonna go from here. We'll go into kind of how the YouTube game is played and some things about that. But starting with the comment section, engagement is engagement. So in reality, from the YouTube perspective, if you're getting a bunch of comments, even if they say they hate your guts, even if they say you're the worst, even though YouTube kind of likes it, because then at least they're responding. They're doing something. The like button, all that's great, but if somebody writes a novel in the comments section and other people respond to the novel with novels of their own, YouTube's going, oh, they must be interested in what this person's doing because they're writing novels. But my question is really this: there are things in there that you can take as maybe critiques, maybe useful constructive criticism, but then there's also stuff that's just stuff. So then once you get to a certain size where you're actually getting a decent amount of comments, like I think for the one I'm looking at right now, the Ryan Hoge one, I see 133 comments, which includes obviously some responses by you and all that, but still a lot of comments. So when you're getting to the mass volume, how useful or not useful are these comments? Oh, you appreciate the engagement, but it's like at a certain point, it's like you almost kind of roll your eyes at it. Like, what do you basically respond to it when you're looking at it?
I mean, I read all of them. I don't respond to all of them. I used to try to respond to all of them, and I don't have the time anymore to respond to all of them. But I read every single comment.
Mhm.
Um, I think you have to take it as if it's legit criticism. If you hear it in multiple comment, like in multiple videos, and it's coming from multiple different commenters, because sometimes you'll see like critical comments and it's the same three names like
Mhm.
every two video or every other video or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, okay, do they just not like is there anything that I could do to appease certain people? And maybe there is, maybe there isn't, I don't know. But if it's the same couple voices all the time, I don't want to say I phase it out a little bit, but I take it with a little bit more of a grain of salt. If I start seeing it from names that I don't typically see in the comment section, or I see it in addition to, a name I may recognize, then I start like, okay, wait, do I need to like reevaluate something here? Like, do I need to change a process? Do I need to relook at the way that I'm kind of doing stuff? Uh, that's kind of how I look at it at a very high level.
Hmm. Sure. That's always like, it's a conversation that I've had offline with folks. It's one of those things where, and I did had the same conversation with Victor. There is a critical mass, and if your goal is, and for a lot of us, it's a tricky balance, because if you're a strictly collector oriented channel, you don't care about having a ton of subscribers necessarily, but you want maybe a small community of folks that comment and you kind of go back and forth and all that. You can accomplish that without having to do too much. You don't necessarily. If you happen to catch a couple of people and then they're consistently there and you just have the back and forth, that's perfect. The live that I have is kind of in that beautiful middle ground right now, because there's enough people in there that we're kind of going back and forth with them. But if you get so big, then all of a sudden you're dealing with a ton of comments. And then it becomes a lot more difficult to kind of figure out. Now, some of us can get through the comments a little bit faster, Dustin, than others. But even then, at a certain point, though, if you get enough comments, it doesn't matter how fast you are. Then, like, I pride myself that for the most part, I can either acknowledge or read most of the comments still. But if you suddenly double or triple the amount of people in the chat, you're going to lose that ability. You just no longer, unless you're going to interrupt everybody every 5 seconds to go through 20 comments in a row. Like, you can't. So there is a saturation point. It's the same thing with comment, though. In the comment section, to your point, you can no longer respond to everybody, even if you want to. So, but it is still beneficial. Like, YouTube still rewards the engagement. So at the same time, like, it's good in a way. And even if they're mad at you, it's still potentially good. So you kind of let it go. But it's a weird formula that you kind of have to play with this, and a weird way that you have to approach it just to allow that growth to happen. To me, it's still a very strange thing. But once you get to a certain size, and imagine if you were twice as big and had twice as many comments, would anything change in your approach though at that point?
I pull something from the Rudy Alpha Investments playbook of, if I get like something super crazy, my favorite thing to do with those comments is to pin them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if someone's like really like pissed off at me about something, or just does not like the take that I have, I just pin that one, and then I just kind of see where the audience goes with it.
The pin of shame. The pin of shame. Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's
works
why I say
well. I see why Rudy does it.
yeah, it does. It actually does. You'd be surprised what you get response to. But that's why I say, like, it's something that I consistently look at. I don't think I've been able to. I asked you the question, but I don't think I've been able to come up with a good answer. And I don't think most of it, like, I don't think people have a good way of responding to that. If you get enough engagement like that, but at the same time, it's all over the place. Some people really like it. Some people really don't like it. Some people really don't like you. And then it's like, well, okay, so how are you supposed to deal with this? Like, what is the thing?
Yeah,
The pin of shame's good. It's an option, but it's only an option for one. You can't deal with the rest of them that way.
yeah, and I don't use it all the time. It might be one video every couple of weeks. If I just get, every once in a while, I'll just get one, and I'll just be like, I don't even understand what's going on here, and then I'll just be like, let me just pin this one and see what happens, and then let the masses decide, if you will. And the truth of it is, probably 90% of your audience on a video isn't even commenting. Like, to your point, that video got, what did you say, like 130 comments on it?
Yeah, 130 comments is what it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
probably
And
10 of those
4,500
were
views.
mine replying to stuff. Some of those were probably other people commenting multiple times in multiple threads. So let's just call it 100 comments, like even.
Mhm.
And that video, I think, got, I don't know, I think it's at like 4,500 views, maybe
I'm looking at
5,000.
4.5K is what I see on mine.
Okay, so of 4.5K views, 100 people commented. Like, that's really not, like, a bulk of your audience actually never says anything. I call them the silent majority.
Well, I think that's fair, but look, I got to be honest with you. Like, we obviously don't have the insight from YouTube, but like, my understanding is just looking at 4,500 views, 130 comments or 100 comments, whatever, 170 likes. I have to assume at least 3,700 of those views are Ziggy refreshing. So, like, I don't know. I don't know if I really would consider that. Look, you count it however you want, but I'm interpreting it a certain way. That's what I'm seeing.
I'll have to look at the unique views.
There you go. Exactly. So kind of playing into that,
though.
though, the reason I brought it up is that obviously, again, it does play into engagement and everything, but your channel's kind of reached a level now, like you're 19.1K subscribers. You're hanging around somewhere in the 20K range. So you're right around where Dustin is. I think he's already at 20K, but you guys are, within range of each other. So similar sized channels at this point. You guys have posted volume in terms of videos. I was saying to you before, right now, the way that YouTube shows it, it's showing you in 1999. So congratulations on your 2000 video, the market update.
Yeah, it will be if that is accurate, it will be the weekly sports card market update tomorrow. Though I almost planned on recording something for we're recording this on Saturday. I don't know when you're planning on posting this. I
It'll
had a
probably be later
video
today. Yeah.
okay.
It'll probably
I
be
had a
later
video idea in mind to go up this week, and that was before all the chaos hit of the Geoff Wilson repack and then the SGC news and all that. Like I was going to do a video about Topps Chrome and how I'm passing on it, and I still kind of want to do that video, but sometimes this happens where I had the idea for that video over last weekend because I'm like, I don't like what I'm seeing out of Topps Chrome. I think I'm going to pass on it. And now it feels like, Topps Chrome's out already. It's like 4 days later. Like, did I just miss the window and now that video just never exists? That happens more often than not, where you get the idea for it, it's ready to go, it's not newsy, it's not topical, and then all of a sudden chaos erupts. And next thing you know, like 3 videos are gone to whatever happened that week, because for better or for worse, to your point about the daily churn, my niche kind of evolved into being extremely timely, and that could be a blessing and it could be a curse.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of works in the moment. It's not necessarily evergreen, really. A lot of them aren't. There's some videos here and there that I mentioned to you that one of the ones that you did last month. So in June, you had the sports card content on YouTube Sucks, where you went in, showed some analytics and all that. I went and refreshed myself on it before we started hit record. And I was saying, a lot of what's on there, though, I agree with because it's been truthful. You have kind of catered yourself into a niche of being kind of news-based, kind of. Dustin's similar to it, almost daily videos. That's how you get to 2,000. So it's a lot of videos that way. I've kind of gone into the live stream thing as the flagship, and then I'll make other videos related to it. I have the podcast on there, which I like to have as a change of pace to it. But that's kind of the approach that I just don't want to make that many videos because it's a time-consuming thing, especially when I'm doing so much long form. It just takes a lot of time. But with a lot of the videos you do, and you mentioned it in that video, the design of it, since you're not necessarily a talking head, you're kind of a disembodied voice most of the time. The editing time is minimal. I've done the ones where I do the screen record. That actually takes a lot less time because unless you have a bunch of stops and starts, for the most part, you can just let it run all the way through. That's what makes it easier. Even this conversation, that's the reason I said it might be later today, is because when we're done talking, regardless of how long it is, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to scrub through the whole thing. I may put some horrific pictures in front of you during different times. The editing gods, I can't control them. But for the most part, I can kind of just let it play because we're just going back and forth and having a conversation. So the editing effort is actually minimal on this type of format. That helps make more videos. But the other thing is, so it creates that volume thing. The question that I have based on that, though, is something that I see out there in social media is the way to do this to up your production game? Is it to increase production values? And it was interesting because I was thinking about it. The reality is, obviously, a lot of people have made that suggestion, but I'm also looking at it. I'm wondering what the actual benefit would be to it, though, because, and I've seen this over time. If I make a video where it's just a screen record, this is about as minimal effort as you can get. It's literally a screen record. If the topic hits right, though, the views will be there anyway.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, how now can a nice production values help you? Look, Geoff Wilson has proven that you can actually build up a large audience with nice production value. There is an audience that cares about that and that is drawn to it. But a lot of them just want to hear whatever topic they're hearing. Some of these collector channels, Midlife Sports Cards is one that has built up a pretty good community of stuff. That's not high production values. It's most of the time it's a talking head video. So like, if that can build an audience to it that's fairly consistent, and Dustin's got Alf, but outside of that, and random pop culture clips, but is that really high production value? Not necessarily. As long as your microphone doesn't sound terrible and it turns people off, I think for the most part you can get away with it. I just don't know how much benefit you would get unless you went all out in the like full scale production value. A little improvement may help, but I don't know how many additional views it would get you.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it in that video that you referenced. My, I guess, talent is that I've streamlined this process to where I could get, if something happens, I can have a take, record it, and get it live, sometimes within like 20 minutes of the news coming out. It's the record time which most of my videos probably come in around 10 minutes, give or take, maybe 15.
Mhm.
It's the record time, and then it usually takes me longer to render the video than it does to edit it. Because to your point, unless I cough or something, or the phone rings, or the washer goes off on the other side of the basement, like I don't usually have. I make maybe one or two cuts in a video tops,
Mhm.
so the editing time is nothing. I would rather. This is just me personally. 90% of the time, I would rather have the speed than, to your point, sitting there and be like, okay, let me go pull all these little viral clips and put them in. And I don't know, maybe have my head down in the corner with the press release on the screen or whatever it is that I'm talking about. My thought always was, does that really make a difference if there's a little moving head down in the bottom corner? I mean, people, I actually get a lot of people that tell me in person that they appreciate the way my videos are because they don't have to look at the screen a lot of the times.
Mhm.
Like they could put it on, get the info, and they don't actually have to be locked into looking at the actual video itself.
Mhm.
So I think sure, maybe upping production values could help on some standpoints, but I think actually some people just appreciate that it's almost more like a mini podcast than it is an air quote YouTube video.
Mhm. That's kind of basically the thought that I was having with it is that I think I think it's actually more the topic itself. I actually think that in a lot of cases, again, if your microphone is terrible, like if it's if it
Yeah,
literally hurts your ears, I think then yeah, you're gonna hurt yourself. You want to get production to a level where it's at least listenable. And I think you can get away with a lot. If you have to show something on the screen and people need to see it, well then great. Yeah, make it so it's clear. So it's not looking through you're not recording with a potato in that case. Please show us whatever you're showing us. But I think for the most part, I think you can get away. I just think that the ceiling is too low in this niche for it to be worth that extra. I think if we were in a category where you could have million subscriber channels more regularly, or a video could go viral and have a million views, then maybe there might be some worthwhile. Because especially if you could replicate it, like if that production value helped you get that consistently, I could see that. There are some channels in the Pokemon space that can do that, so they do a little bit more editing. And I go, well, I can justify that for you because you're getting a million views for this video. And if
yeah.
you're able to do that with semi consistency, I can see where that would be of value.
Yeah, and I've definitely invested money back into the channel. Like I'm not like, this camera that I'm recording on here is a Sony 4K camera. It was about $800. I bought a nice couple $100 microphone. Probably the biggest thing that I changed was the way that I do card show content. And I bought got stuck in I got one of the
Mhm.
DJI Pocket 3s about a year ago. And I wish this is the one piece of equipment that I wish I would have bought way sooner. I really like this thing, and I like the way that this has worked out in regards to recording at some of the bigger shows. I might only use it a couple of times a year, but it just makes that process so much easier to record because I tried doing the vlog style stuff like way back in like the COVID era, and I did one of them and I'm like, this is a nightmare. Like I don't understand how these guys do this. And the reason why they do it is a lot of them have editors that are doing all the editing on it. But even with the stuff that I record at Fanatics Fest or this upcoming week at the National,
Mhm.
I even have a very clean process for how I record that. And it's not like, I'm not doing all the crazy shots or whatever. It's literally just a video of me walking the show floor. So it's just giving something people to look at. And maybe I might reference of like, oh, look how busy this aisle is, or look at all the repackers fighting for kabooms, or, you know, here's the venue. But I'm not like doing these crazy, establishing shots and all that stuff like you see in some of the vlog style content. But I think it has a lot of people have commented that they really enjoy kind of that visual aspect that I do on my vlog style, which is slightly different than probably what most people do. But I think to truly do the vlog style stuff, you need a cameraman to really do it correctly.
Mhm. I agree. Like, look, if you want to go that route, like I'll watch some of those folks that are the vlogger. But the thing is, and where I think it helps them, is it's basically a lot of them, like King of Cars, for example. He basically sets up at shows, so the video is a supplement to the actual business, which is the buying and selling cards at the show. But yes, the social media presence helps build up his profile. So when he then wants to promote, his hat and his merch and whatever, Well, yeah, now that you've got an audience, you can sell them hats or t-shirts or whatever, in addition to selling them cards or doing whatever. And then they see you at the show. Oh, hey, King of Cards, whatever. Um, the two combined, it's like the card collector 2 thing. He's got
Yeah.
a card shop, he's got the breaks, he's got this, that, and the other thing. But then the channel is a lead into it. The biggest ones in the space, market movers, Geoff Wilson. It's to sell market movers. That's the point of the entire. Yes, high production values, but it's not just the YouTube channel that's designed to generate the money. They're monetized, but if that's all it was, he'd be losing money hand over fist. The amount of
Yeah, and
production.
there's for those guys too. I'm sure there's tons of side business um, advantages that gives them as well. Geoff had a massive presence on social already. I guarantee his conversations with fanatics about getting a Topps Direct account were probably a lot easier than it was for a guy that's starting up a card shop in middle of nowhere Iowa or something. You know what I mean? Same with Ryan at Card Collector 2. I think he already had Topps access, but it makes those conversations probably a lot easier for those guys when the companies know who they are already based off their social media profiles.
Yeah, but I think just when I'm looking at those ones though, just understanding the size of the channels in this space, I look at those as businesses that use YouTube as a social media vehicle, and it's basically a loss leader. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it has AdSense, but for the production they're doing, it costs more to produce those videos than they actually generate. But what they generate is buzz, they generate business and drive it towards the actual money makers that are actually doing it. It's like, yeah, this is a commercial for Card Collector 2, it's a commercial for market movers. All the videos are commercial for market movers. And the more scandalous things Geoff says, the more eyeballs he draws to himself as a brand. That leads me, though, to the next thing. While you may not have the super crazy vlog production values, Neil, what you do have is wonderfully clickbaity thumbnails. So, and you've played the game quite well with these, I must say. I did appreciate, the Geoff Wilson, make sports card hobby great again, which I'm sure was also met with a few praise. A few praise. The thing is, and I had this experiment a little while ago. I had fun where Dustin had his fun. And we were this close though. We mentioned on live. We were this close to Geoff Wilson acknowledging Eric's fandom.
Mm.
We were this close, and Ham was there. He was ready to go. It was going to be a great moment, and we just missed out on it. But the truth is, Dustin obviously did a response to the podcast episode we did. But the thing is, I didn't have to title that podcast episode to Geoff Wilson Hobby Goat ? But as soon as I did,
Yeah.
it set the whole thing off. But it proves though the power of the title and the power of the thumbnail if you play this right. So the question is like, is the answer higher production values, or is it just get the right topic that makes people click on it?
It's not even get the right topic. It's just get the right title and thumbnail. Because sometimes you could title and thumbnail something where it's not even like, to your point, like the Geoff Wilson Hobby Goat thing. It's not a deceptive title, but you could play games with some of that stuff as well.
Yeah.
I've said before, people ask me, I've had other smaller creators or people thinking about getting into it, like, what's your number one recommendation? And I was like, it's YouTube 101, man. You got to nail the thumbnails and you got to nail the titles. Like, I've had people reach out and they're like, hey, can you take a look at my channel and just like let me know like what's a couple things I could be doing better? And 99% of the time it's thumbnails. And I'm not saying mine are perfect. There's some that I'm just like, but there's others where, like the Geoff Wilson one, I had that idea and I'm like, oh, this is gonna play great.
Yeah. So, but that's what I say. Like, to that point, though, if someone actually watched the episode, there was nothing clickbaity about it. Eric did say that,
Yeah.
but without context, you lose the fact that then Bobbles and I were making fun of him mercilessly for it. Like, if you actually watch it, we're looking at him incredulously going, what the hell is this guy? What is he saying? But then he gets his point, and we're sitting there like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but you're still being ridiculous. That's actually where the conversation. But if you just look at the title, and if you just take the one clip, which Dustin took the clip, he did ask, so I appreciated that. The courtesy, I appreciate it. The reality, though, is he didn't actually post anything incorrect, but people just looked at the one clip and they just ran with it, and that's what they were upset about. There was no additional context. You miss out on us making fun of him for 25 straight minutes or whatever it was based on that, and then making fun of him on every live stream since. A couple of people got it, because I did get some people who actually came over to the video, actually watching, and goes, okay, I now I get what you guys. Yeah, it's like the title wasn't deceptive because he did in fact say those words,
Yeah.
but then we've got context. There's other the context though is lost because a lot of people just read the headline, and that's all they're reacting to and responding to. That's where, but most of those comments were on Dustin's video, and people were not very nice, Neil. They just were not very nice to Eric. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
people get upset about like the one that people gets people fired up all the time is if you do the whole going to zero thing, like X is going to zero with the big dramatic red crashing arrow. And I get it, like it's not actually going to zero, but I can guarantee if you put going to zero with a red crashing thing about something, that video is probably going to perform well. Like
Mhm.
on the back end on the YouTube studio, I don't know how many people realize this. There's a when you publish a video, it shows you, it compares it to your most 10 recent videos.
Yeah, that's right.
And I usually know just based off the title and the thumbnail before the video even goes live what quadrant of that 10 it's going to fall into.
Mhm.
Typically, like I know there's some videos that I record, this is not going to perform well. Like a perfect example, when I had Elizabeth on from PSA, I knew that video would not perform well. It's long form.
Mhm.
It is PSA, so that gets it a level up. But it's about comics specifically, or
Mhm.
mostly comics. And she is not, though she is an important position at PSA, she is not Nat Turner.
Mhm.
She's not Ryan Hoge. So the less people are going to click on that just from that aspect of it alone. More so, I think the long form, the comic book aspect of it is going to hurt something like that. And there's other videos I've done on like my, favorite comics in my collection or like my 90s Indians PC or whatever. And I know those videos aren't going to perform well, but I just do them because I like doing them. There are,
Mhm.
I call it, there's some for us. You do the video that is, I don't know, passion project is too strong of a phrase for it, but you just record them because that's just what you want to do that day. And then there's some that you're like, do I really want to talk about, you know, the easiest video ever was when PSA would roll out their pricing specials a couple of years ago when they were still coming out of like the backlog. And it's like I'm literally just reading the PSA specials page, and that video
Mhm.
would perform extremely well every single time. And it's
Well,
the
yeah.
easiest thing in the world to do. Like it takes, to your point from earlier, I pull up the page, I look at it, I formulate my thoughts, I can record and upload that video in 20 minutes, and it's probably going to perform 2 out of 10 on that top 10 list, most likely, as opposed to something I can spend hours on and it might perform 9 out of 10 because it's not PSA, it's not drama, it's not, whatever the zeitgeist of the week is.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. This is played out over time. I don't play in the news game anymore. I did a little bit here and there in the past, closer to pandemic time, but I just don't have the bandwidth or the energy to run out there. But I did the video on the Peter Steinberg thing, and I knew it was going to do very well because it's like we put SGC Pete in there. If I wasn't so lazy, Neo, I would have done the Thanos snap thing. If I had done the Peter Steinberg with the Thanos snap, disintegrating, that would have been actually pretty sweet. But then they did the Tombstone with the SGC. Is SGC dead? Question mark. SGC Pete resigns, and the video did very well. And it was just a talking head video. I grabbed my camera, I hit record, and I didn't even read the statement because there's no point. Like it was
Yeah,
just
I
very
mean,
straightforward, bare bones
yeah,
statement. Like this is what's happened. This is what I think. Here it is. 20 minutes. Hit record. Boom. Upload it, and we're done. Um, but those do better than ones that are like, all right, let me take time to really break something down and do all this stuff. And it's like it's all in levels. Like you guys are doing a couple of thousand views for that stuff. And in this case, it's like 400 or change, which for the channel where most of the time it's just collector stuff. Pickup videos don't do much because it's like, yeah, these are just stuff I like to collect. If you're interested in it, then that's great. But it's mostly for me. It's like record keeping. That's the way I
yeah,
know what came in this year. That's how I know at the year end what are my favorite pickups. Neo, I can't remember what my favorite pickups are, but I can go back through the video list and go, okay, so what? Oh, that actually was this year in January. It wasn't last year. Okay, yeah,
yeah. I
that's
do the
definitely
same
one.
thing.
Yeah.
I do
So,
the same thing.
but that's for me. To your point, that's for me, as opposed to, and if other people enjoy it, that's awesome. But that's really just for record keeping purposes. It's an interesting thing, though. Let me ask this question, though, based on that. Obviously, we know certain topics tend to hit. If you had a choice, though, what topic would you want like on a semi-regular basis, guaranteed? Are we just waiting for Geoff Wilson to say something that's scandalous? Do we just need a grading thing? Because there are different categories that tend to do well. Do we need a grading thing? Do we need hobby drama? Or do we need Geoff Wilson saying something silly, which can also lead in hobby drama?
You're saying which one of those do I want more of? Or
Yeah, if you have a show, because all of them tend to do pretty well, but obviously you could oversaturate. There's certain things that you don't want to overdo it. But which one do we want? Like, what's we have the Dustin, Geoff Wilson said something of the week. That should be a segment sponsored by somebody. I don't know who sponsored. Maybe Geoff Wilson. Maybe Geoff Wilson should sponsor it. Yeah. Hey, Dustin could just
Graded Grails. Sponsored by Graded Grails.
It's like cover what I say every single week. Yeah, it's the sponsored category.
Yeah.
But so for him that makes sense. But what category would you want on a semi-regular basis if you could control it?
I think the easy one for me would be grading, because I do enjoy kind of breaking down the grading companies. And I prefer to talk about companies, not individuals, as much as possible.
Okay.
Like I don't generally react to a ton of content. Occasionally I will. I've definitely busted out a Geoff Wilson reaction video, but I generally don't. I don't know what it is. In my mind, there is a difference between going after a creator versus going after a company.
Okay.
And I don't really, like I said, I don't know what that line is in my mind. It's just kind of where I've fallen into. So I guess of those topics, I think grading or just general like nonsense, like the $350 million allegedly memorabilia thing, or like the Dallas card show heist, or stuff like that, versus YouTube drama. I think the YouTube drama is my least favorite stuff to cover of the zeitgeisty things.
Okay. No, that's fair. That kind of gave me a little power ranking. That's why I was curious. Like, obviously they do well. Like, let's be honest.
100%. I could do it, which, I did not do a reaction video to the whole Geoff Wilson eye appeal thing. I've made some jokes about it here and there. And I even made a joke about it in the video about the repack, of saying maybe he'll have an eye appeal repack where it's all lower graded cards, but they look better. So like I'll poke my fun at it here and there. And that would have been, to your point, that would have been the easiest video in the world to do.
Yes.
Is to do the Geoff Wilson eye appeal video, because he did not couch that take very well in regards to the whole segregating the whole vintage side of it versus the ultra modern side of it. He has backpedaling on it, but that would have been the easiest video in the world to make. But I just generally don't like to go after other creators as much as possible. I mean, I will if it dictates that I have to. Not that I have to, but if something rises to the level where I feel I need to, I will. But some of the nonsense, I'm just like, that's one of those ones where it's like, everyone else has done this video. I'll make my little jokes here and there, but I don't know that I need a dedicated video on it. Maybe if it was a slightly slower news week, maybe I would have, but there's plenty going on right now that I didn't need to dive into that one.
Sure. But so kind of in that vein though, since we brought up that one, so let me ask this question though. I kind of have fun with this, the oscillating back and forth. You talked about, how he did the eye appeal thing. He completely botched that, the backpedaling, all that. But the thing is, I do wonder, unless he is willfully, so is it a situation that Geoff Wilson is just willfully blind and literally doesn't understand that, because he says stuff wrong all the time. It's not like a one-time thing or 100-time thing. It happens so regularly. But at the same time, it does drive some engagement. It's not like his people can't see the comment section where he's consistently even the people that aren't just roasting him for the sake of roasting are like, you're wrong. This is why. Like, there will be posts where literally they're like, no, you are wrong. This is why. You're not getting this. Yeah. Like, this is wrong. And so is he just blissfully unaware, or is he crazy like a fox?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think, just given the amount, I think it's a little bit of both. I think some of it is he comments on stuff that maybe he's a little bit out of his depth on. But then I also think some of it is, I'm not going to couch this. Like, we'll use the eye appeal thing. And I don't know. I have no background on this at all. But I have to imagine a little bit of that is, let's not silo this. Like, there could have been clear statements made at the beginning of the video that we're looking at more like the 80s and up, or like the big, like the Jordan 86 is kind of the cutoff line for this. We're not talking about, like pre-war, the stuff that boutique SGC is going to be grading. Um, he could have couched that I think if he really wanted to, but I think he also knew. I mean, you did the whole video about I forget how you couched it, but
Rage bait.
Yeah, like he won. Like he got what he wanted. He put the video out. There was reaction videos everywhere. Everyone's talking about it, him. He's in the algo. He's in the zeitgeist of everything. And then I don't know, 5 days later, he has a big repack announcement. Now he's back front and center again because everyone's talking about that.
That's why I say it. Like, my argument is always in the volume. Like, if you get something wrong here and there, okay, but it's just with such regularity. It's like every time it quiets down a little bit, hold on, it's time to say a thing. Because otherwise, like, if he's just that unaware, then maybe the job would be to hire somebody who's like, Geoff, that's not what that actually means. Literally just the guy who sits in the corner, and as Geoff starts talking, he goes, that's not what that means. That's not what that is. And just hold a copy of the Sports Card for Dummies and just open it up to the page that just explains it. Hold on. Let me just open it up. Or Teapot has to sit in the corner and be like, no, Geoff, no. He just shakes his head for the entire episode. Just no.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder, though.
Forget, he went to actual journal. Like we were joking earlier about, like, we're not journalists. I believe his degree is actually broadcast media.
Even if not, I know his sister is in broadcast media.
I'm pretty sure his degree from University of Florida is something to do with like media or broadcast media or journalism. Like he went to school for this.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying, like, I don't disagree with you, but I am saying, like, his sister is actually in broadcast.
Yeah, she works for ESPN.
Like,
she's an anchor.
Yeah, so there is, either way, there is some understanding of how this game is played.
He knows how the game's played, I think.
Yeah. That's why I say, like, I'm not trying to give, to people, I'm not trying to give him too much credit, but I'm just stating through sheer volume and repetition and also timing, because his most scandalous things are always on the Geoff Wilson Show channel, not on the Market Movers one.
Yes.
You ever notice it's almost always on the Geoff Wilson? So I'm sitting there like, I have to think that somebody in that building understands what they're doing. And also sometimes the thumbnails play right into the thumbnail will enhance what it is that he's just about to say and make it a little more.
Yeah, he knew. I have to imagine at some level he knew what was going to happen with that. What was it, like the opening 60-second monologue of the eye appeal video? He knew exactly what he was doing when he was doing that. Everyone has ran with that first 30 seconds of that video. And that's what you want. If you're making a YouTube video, you need to bring passion out in people in that opening salvo to either get them to watch because they're intrigued or pissed. Like, you said, what? Are you an idiot? What? There's no way. And then immediately you're angry on your keyboard, giving the engagement in the comment section. And that's from a YouTube let's play the game perspective, that's a win.
I agree. Well, look, that's why I have an angry guy in Massachusetts who explains to us all why Geoff Wilson's a GOAT. And he's there, and then I can get Dustin to respond to him, and we're off to the races. We're done.
Yeah. If you actually want to grow a YouTube channel, you have to be willing to play the game a little bit. Like the collector channels, they just want to do their thing, and that's perfectly fine, like you talked about earlier. But you have sports cards content has a small ceiling as is, and if you 1000% want to stay in that niche of the collector content, that's great. But if you want to grow, if you want to ride the algo, whatever term you want to use, you have to play the game slightly, even if you don't necessarily want to.
For sure. No, I agree with that. That's why I say it's kind of a fun topic to talk about when it comes to that one, but it's always interesting. You're never going to know everybody's motivations. I'm not a lot of this conversation is just a lot of theories, but just based on observation. Like, again, when I see something enough times, I go, well, either you are soft in the head and you literally forget every 5 seconds and you have, the short-term memory loss to the nth degree, which is possible, or I'm looking at thumbnails that lead into it. I'm looking at a style where you're being as combative as possible inside of the first 30 seconds to elicit the strongest possible reaction immediately. And I go, so I have to assume two things. I have to assume you don't know what you're doing, but you also happen to be doing it the most effectively possible way to drive that emotion out of people at the same time. So you also don't know what you're doing, but you're also doing it perfectly if that's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, the Geoff Wilson show channel feels like it was almost designed as 66% of the time it's going to be like an interview or like an actual decent conversation, and then 33% of the time it's going to be the Geoff Wilson hot take cannon.
I think it's a clip factory. I think it's basically like what can I say here that'll generate a clip? So let me just keep talking until and editor guys find some stuff and then put it on the
Yeah.
stories and do put
Find
it
the
on IG and
Instagram
all.
reel, find
Yeah,
the 90-second viral moment.
yeah. So I kind of get that idea, but again, everybody's got to do their own thing. But in that vein, though, so my question is this then for you: you've built up the channel to this point where it's sitting right around, just shy of 20K subscribers is what we were talking about. The views are pretty consistent. You've kind of found a level there for yourself. What do you think the ceiling is on a channel like yours, though? We know the ceiling in sports cars is where it is. Like, if something viral happens, so be it. But for the most part, if you just keep chugging along, making videos the way you're doing, is there a lot of more ceiling from where it is? Or do you have to up the production values? Or what would change what's going on here right now?
I think in its current format, it's more just extremely slow growth. I don't see it just like boom exploding out there because I'm a niche within a niche. It's sports cards content, but then almost niched down into like sports card news content. So like
Yeah.
how many people care about sports cards? And then take it a level lower, how many people care about the daily in and outs of the sports card world and kind of the more businessy aspects of the sports card world and like the hobby ecosystem stuff, and then throw in an occasional box opening and some collector content here and there. I accept that the ceiling for that is probably not massive. Like it's not like I'm magically just going to go to like 100,000 subscribers one day. I don't have the
Mhm.
production value for it, and I also, to be fair, this is not my job. This is a side thing for me.
Mhm.
I'm not planning on.
So I was going to ask you a question about that. So that's kind of what the reason I'm asking if it's something that you'd be interested in. It is a side gig. You have your day job. This is another thing, but it does generate a little extra revenue, which is not a bad thing. It is what it is. And I assume you're pretty happy with what you're getting out of it because you do have sponsors. You have built up enough of an audience that you do have that with consistency. So that's good. So that's when I'm asking if you think there's more ceiling, would you even want there to be? Like based on the amount of time you're able to put into this now and what you get into it in return, are you satisfied with where it is right now? If there is a little slow growth, great. Or is there anything here that you would want to expand on? Would you want to make it a bigger thing, or are you kind of content where it is with some slow growth built in?
I'm fine with the slow growth of it. Listen, I thought about like, do I just want to do content full time? On paper, that sounds great. I don't know if I would want that level of daily stress of, oh
Mm,
god, this video performed like crap, or oh, it's been a slow news week, or oh, I lost, sponsorships are fluid, oh, I lost this sponsor, now I need another one, or I need more sponsors to supplement the income because this is my full-time job.
mm,
I just don't know that I want that sort of pressure on it, and I think actually it gives me an advantage that it is not my full-time income because I'm not beholden to sponsors as much because I don't necessarily need them. Listen, it's great. Getting paid to do content is freaking amazing. I realize how lucky I am because not everybody gets that opportunity. And the fact that I make any money off of it all is awesome. And to be frank, most of the money that I make off of content is how I built a decent chunk of my collection
mm.
at this point. That's my hobby money. Rather, I've always gone back to the some people dig through dollar boxes and find the deals and flip them. Mine is I'll make a video. That's the videos are my
Hmm.
dollar box
Yeah.
digging.
Go ahead, Neil. Much love to the Penny Sleever and Comsey. Go ahead.
Yeah,
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 this is your moment.
yeah.
Much love. Much love.
So I don't know. That's just kind of where I view it. I don't know that I would want to do the sex appeal of full-time content creator, don't have a day job. Sounds amazing. And then every time I think about it, I'm like, do I really want to deal with this? Because I probably, in my current life situation, if I lost my job tomorrow, I I could squeeze it out on content if I really, really needed to. My wife has a very good job. We don't have kids. There's just various personal life aspects that might allow me to sneak by with that, but it would
Mhm.
probably change what would have to do. I might have to make more content or put more content on the TCG channel, whatever. It would be way more work than I'm willing to put into it. I like the idea that it's just kind of this side thing, that it's uh, essentially a side hustle. It's not a second job per se. Some days it feels like it, but
Yeah, well, that's why I think it's a worthwhile perspective to have it in there, that even if the channel's monetized, even if you are able to get sponsors for the most part, unless you really go full bore, I don't see it being enough. Like I always have fun. I kind of poke fun at Sports Card Live. So Jeremy Lee's got his thing, and the top banner looks like a NASCAR thing. It looks like he should be wearing a fire suit with the amount of logos that are hanging around the top of it. But if you want to make it more of a full time living, then having shows that this auction watch along is sponsored by so and so, and this thing is sponsored by this, well then yeah, that's basically what you'd need to do. I can poke fun at it, but at the same time, if you want to make it more of a full time thing, well that's what's required. These are the people keeping the lights on. They're the ones paying the bills in that banner across the top, and you need a lot
yeah.
of them.
Yeah, YouTube ad revenue does not pay you that well. I mean, especially at our level for the number of views. Now, like I said, the fact that I can make any money off a video at all, I'm extremely lucky and blessed in that. But you're not keeping your electric bill paid with the level, at least that I'm at. And like to your point, like even like what Jeff and Card Collector 2 get views wise, when you given the overhead that they have to get those views, they're not either. I actually don't know when it comes to YouTube content creators. I don't Are there actually any strictly full time, all I do is make content? It feels like, to your point from earlier, all of the content is a side piece to something else,
Yeah,
whether it's
I
they're
feel
a
like
dealer.
it's PR. I think it's their personal like PR and
It's an
brand building
infomercial.
and
Yeah,
brand building. Yeah,
yeah.
I
It's just an aspect of whatever it is that they're primarily. I am a card show dealer and I have a YouTube channel. I am a
mhm,
card shop owner and I have a YouTube channel or an
mhm.
Instagram or whatever. I don't know that there's actually many people that are like, my primary focus is this, not this is an add-on to whatever's happening over here.
Yeah, I just don't see the scenario, not in this niche. I just don't think the numbers add up because, again, if Geoff Wilson is the biggest player in the space and he's like 400K subscribers, that's a minnow. Like in YouTube, parlaying to like the Mr. Beasts of the world, or even the Pokemon channels that have a couple million subscribers. You're still like he's got to waste it. He's got a 5x to match some of those channels, and that's with all the production values, all the effort that's putting, all the clickbait thumbnails, all the scandalous takes, and even then he still has to 5x to get to match up to some of those multi-million view channels. Like, well, good luck with that. You got a long way to go in order to make that happen. And again, it can't be. It has to be market movers. It has to be this other stuff. It has to be Cards HQ. Whatever they're making at Cards HQ and the breaking and all that stuff. So I guess we'll have to see. A lot of people are trying to get into it though. Yeah, Brian Gray's got his podcast. He's trying to get into it. He's having his fun. He got out of Leaf and now he's got a podcast, so he's having fun. He's big Bri, no holds barred. There's no holds barred, Neil. None. Not a
But
single
even
one.
him, like, he got obviously a massive check from the Leaf thing. I think his primary thing now is he's a whatnot breaker,
Basically,
and he
yeah.
has this on the side. You know what I mean? To the same point. I think the
Mhm.
content is supplemental to most things, whether it's a day job or whatever you're actually doing in the sports card space for your primary method of paying your bills. It's
Mhm.
great. Like,
Absolutely.
listen, I would recommend anyone that wants to turn the microphone and the camera on. I would recommend doing it. I've learned more in the last 5 years doing YouTube content than I have in a lot of other aspects of life, just from a day to day of like not even necessarily the editing, but just the weird back end stuff. I've made so many connections and friends through content. I would 10 out of 10 would recommend doing it. It's a grind. It could be tough. It could suck when you first start out and you post a video and it gets 3 views. But everyone starts somewhere.
Absolutely. No, I'd agree with that. And as I said, if you want to enjoy it, to your point, yeah, get started. And if you find some, and maybe you just find a community and maybe they kind of chat back and forth with you, you can have a little fun with it, commiserate over great pickups or whatever. That can be fun in itself if that's the goal. If you want to get monetized, that's a different thing. You might have to do a little bit more. Sometimes it's luck, though. Like, to be perfectly honest,
Oh,
it's luck.
I was
Like,
so lucky. I
yeah,
mean, a lot of it is luck. I happened to start in the COVID pandemic, which was the perfect time to start. I got a little lucky on a couple of videos, and then the content transformed over time in the early days. I had no idea what I was doing. When I first started recording videos, I was like, if I ever get to 100 subscribers, this is going to be fantastic. And then when I was like, got to 1,000, I'm like, I'll never get to 1,000. Like, I'll never actually make money on this. This is crazy. And then if you told me where I was 5 years ago when I started this to where I am now, I would have laughed my ass off. And like, there's no way in hell. And sometimes you catch a couple breaks, you get a little lucky, you fall into a niche, you fall into a groove, and people like what you're saying, and you end up, at a decent sized audience.
Absolutely. I think that's fair. Now, I got one more question for you, and then we'll do a couple of minutes on the national. Because, of course, listen, we're on the cusp. Believe it or not, we spent that entire time. We haven't even talked about the national. We'll spend a couple of minutes on it. But one more question for you. Now, given that you are the unofficial PR arm of PSA, you got to get the bag, man. When are you getting the bag? Like, you might as well listen. The comment section already said you're getting the bag. You might as well get the bag. When are we getting the bag?
I joked about that in the Discord the other day. I'm like, if everyone thinks you're getting the bag, but you're not actually getting the bag, do you just take the bag?
You're the sucker at this point, Neo. When are you getting the bag? What are we doing here? $25 off your next PSA order with code Neo.
Yeah. I've taken the bag from other company. I'm not afraid to take a sponsorship. I'm very choosy. For whatever reason in my mind, I just do not want to take grading company sponsorships. And I think it all goes back to whether people want to believe it or not, it allows me to stay neutral when it comes to grading. And the grading stuff is, or what I was just talking about early on in the channel, I kind of fell into that niche of talking about the grading companies, and that stuff saw the most success. So I just kind of kept running with it over the years. And even till today, it's still fairly successful. And I think that's like my separation of church and state. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe I'm leaving money. I mean, I'm definitely leaving money on the table. But in my own mind, it's just a line for whatever reason that I just will not cross on that. Maybe it'll be forever. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. But as of to this point, it's the line that I feel like I don't want to cross, because at least I could always point that back to that and be like, listen, you might think that I favorite one versus the other, like one better than the other or whatever, but I've at least never accepted a paycheck from any of them. So it gives me some level of neutrality that when PSA regrades a Luca auto that they already graded once that was half wiped off, and they regraded a second time, that I have no fears about putting that video out with a clickbait thumbnail and a clickbait title about how they did something stupid, because I don't have, them at my, I don't know, a paycheck coming from them that I'm worried about.
Mm-hmm. Well, Neo, what I'm hearing, I appreciate the sincerity of your words, but what I'm hearing from you right now is a negotiation ploy to get that sweet, sweet tag bot money. That's what I'm hearing right now. I think you're holding out for the sweet, sweet tag bot money is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, the tag bots are mad at me. So I already got tagged in their Discord this morning because they were mad about my video yesterday because I don't take them seriously.
Well, listen, you tell them you take it seriously. If the check has enough zeros on it, then I might take it a little more seriously.
I'll take them seriously when they take it when Tag themselves actually takes sports card grading seriously.
See, that didn't come. People who watch my videos, that didn't come from me. Now, mind you, I'm the guy who had the tag slab as a coaster for the longest time on my desk, but that's not the point. The point is that came from him, not me. See, Neo, the problem with the whole Geoff Wilson GOAT thing is that they kept going like, Carlos, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. It was the angry guy from Massachusetts. Yeah. It wasn't me.
You could have kicked him out of the room. You could have muted his microphone at any time you wanted to.
I could have, but it was too damn funny. I was dying of laughter. I was like, no, praise the content gods. I got to do what I got to do. I always praise the content gods. I got to do what must be done. But, all right, so national. Obviously, that's going to be the big thing. One thing that plays into it as well, though, the national, the Mint Collective in the past, shows like that, though. A lot of folks use them as networking things. And that's where you can get some FaceTime with some of these folks from the content creator perspective here. That is the thing. Like, it's real. I've cultivated relationships for the expo in Toronto. Even though I'm not going out of my way, I'm not trying to build that type of channel necessarily. But over time, just naturally being in the space, if you're around, I know that people from some of these companies watch the channel. But also, I get some FaceTime with them. We chat, we talk about things. I don't specifically go out of my way to pitch anything. But if you did, that would be the way to do it. If you get enough FaceTime and you're chatting and you have a good communication rapport with it, if you want to get sponsorships, that would be a way to do it. Because honestly, I haven't been offered sponsorships, but I've been offered dealer badges. I've been offered opportunity for access to certain things. So even without me going out of my way, that in a smaller niche, I'm in sports card, yes, but I'm also in the Canadian space. Like our area is even more niche than that. But even still, within this space, that can be done if you're willing to network. National is a very good example of how this can work. So obviously when you go in national, want to hang out with folks, find out if Dakota has become a caveman officially, photos, Sasquatch photos forthcoming. But what are the main things that you're looking for national wise? Obviously, hanging out. You got to pay off your bet to Paul. Like, there's a lot of things going on.
The way that I view the larger shows, whether it's the National or even like Fanatics Fest last month, I kind of try to divide it into three parts now. A third of it is the people, and that's the primary reason why I want to go, is to hang out with everybody. Another section of it is the actual cards. Like, there are cards that I am looking for. I enjoy just walking around looking at the showcases. And then the third aspect is the networking. And those ebb and some of that stuff overlaps in the one or the other. Part of the networking might be because I just want to hang out with those people, but it is business networking. There's interesting conversations that are always had. There's little nuggets that you pick up here and there. Let's be honest, at these things, it's weekends in big cities. People like to drink, and you never know what's going to come out of their mouths. Like, when it comes to that sort of stuff, like, you pick up a lot of little things just by listening. And it might not even ever be for a video, but it's good background information. It might make you have a more intelligent take about something. But those are the three primary aspects: people, cards, and networking. And the people in the networking sometimes blend closer together. And time wise, the networking is probably the least amount of time, but it just kind of happens as an extension of the other two. In a lot of cases, you're walking the show floor and all of a sudden you run into somebody, and just by walking up and down the aisles, it turned into a opportunity for a conversation with someone. So it's just all fluid, but those are the three primary goals that I'm going for when I go to most shows.
That's fair. Now, speaking of hanging out with folks and all that, do you fill up the social calendar, or is it something where you try to give yourself a day somewhere in there to kind of chill a little bit, or is it going to be like dinners or hanging out at this or hanging out with that? What's the thought process there?
A little bit of both. There's a couple scheduled dinners that I have with with friends, not like business
Mhm.
dinners. Actually, this is probably the least amount of stuff I have scheduled going into a national in recent years,
Okay.
like ahead of time. I try to thread the needle of being able to get pulled in different directions and not have like a super tight schedule as much as possible. I like to run it that way. Like, I have a few tentpole things. Like, I know I'm going to go to Filmington's thing every Friday at the National. I know I'm going to probably do. We don't have a particular day set, but I will do probably at least one meal with like Steve and Ham and Dustin, whether it's a lunch or a dinner. Um, we have the one thing planned on Friday with the lunch, because that's when Dakota's going to be there and the pay my Paul bet off that I almost.
Now, Neo, one quick side question. One quick side question to that. When you were talking to Ryan Hoge, did you make a last minute pitch to go, if you want to change it to I am folding SGC effective right this very second, right now, SGC is gone forever and go away? Did you pitch maybe a way
No,
of winning the bet?
no, he is not aware of the bet, to the best of my knowledge.
This could have been this could have been your pitch. This could have been your moment. It's like,
Yeah.
execute the plan. Execute the plan. Now is the time. End it.
Save me a pizza. Just fold this whole division that you guys have.
Yeah, forget about the hobby. Forget about the angry people. I just don't want to pay this pizza off. I just want to tell Paul he gets nothing. That's all I want.
Yeah, I think I was a year too early on that bet. We'll see.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I should have.
Yes.
That was my mistake for phrasing it differently. I should have said relevant instead of completely out of business. But what are you going to do?
Well, listen, Paul's gonna get his pizza now, so be
Yes.
it. But yeah, so you've got not too much stuff scheduled, which is fine. That's great. And then for card wise though, you're looking out for the regular same stuff. Anything in particular?
This will actually probably be a video this week, assuming nothing else chaotic happens. I'm always looking for the cool non-sports stuff, usually specifically autos. I have a couple of things on the mind. Sports card wise, the one particular one that I'm looking for is I would like the Kobe LeBron Topps Chrome Refractor in like a PSA 9, the LeBron guard and Kobe. I think that, I forget what year. I'm blanking on the year off the top of my head, but I've wanted one of those for a while. They're like $1,500 in a PSA 9, so that's on my radar. They don't pop up super often on eBay. I feel like that's a card that's tucked away in collections a lot. So if I run into one of those, I would. Non-sports autos are probably the biggest thing that I'm looking for. Cool wrestling autos. And then, every once in a while you run into some random, I'll run into like a Jose Ramirez or Manny Ramirez card that catches my eye. But I try to stay, I like to have like one or two things that I'm specifically looking for. and then just general niches of things that I'm looking for rather than specific cards. That way I'm not like 100% laser focused on something and kind of miss things that I might be like, oh no, I'm only looking for this. So then you kind of like shove everything else off to the side. I try to stay fast and loose on my wants, but I'm pretty particular these days on the stuff that I'm looking for. So, you know, I may buy if I buy 5 cards this week, that's probably a win. If I average 1 card a day, that's probably successful. If I
Okay,
find
I
what
think
I
that's
want.
reasonable.
But I'm not planning
Okay.
on walking out of there with like a massive Zion case full of stuff. I'm bringing a handful of things with me that I either want to sell or trade for trade bait. If I move them, great. If I don't, I'll just throw them up on eBay. It's not the end of the world.
Hmm.
But I go almost more for the social aspects of it, and then hopefully I pick up a couple cool cards that I find. Like last year, I walked in the National with not much in the way of targets, and I came out of there feeling great about the stuff that I bought.
Okay, nice. That seems reasonable. All right, so one last national question, and then one little wild card at the end, just for fun. Give the conspiracy people a little something, so we'll give it to them right at the end. So last national question. So obviously, being the kind of the Super Bowl hobby, although I will say I push back on the Super Bowl. I almost feel like Fanatics is a Super Bowl because it's very corporate and very expensive. I feel like the analogy to Super Bowl is better for Fanatics. I haven't decided though what the national will be though. Like it is some obviously it's huge, but like I feel like Fanatics Fest is closer to a Super Bowl. Like think about what the Super Bowl is in terms of expensive and corporate and all that. You know the National has a lot of corporate presence, but it's something else. It's still a big event. I'm just not sure what it is. I haven't decided.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that take. It's almost like maybe the Nationals like the college football championship, and the Fanatics Fest is the Super Bowl. I don't know.
Maybe I have to
But
kick that one around. I'm not sure. Like my stance is right now. I believe the Fanatics Fest. If we use the analogy properly, I think that's a Super Bowl. The National is something else. It still has to be a big event. Whatever it is, it still has to be a big event. I just haven't quite put my finger on what it should be. Not sure yet.
yeah, yeah, because Fanatics Fest is way more pomp and circumstance
Yeah,
than the National is.
yeah,
I was
because the
having a
National has more
conversation.
cards.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone yesterday actually about San Diego Comic Con because they went to their first San Diego Comic Con, and I said I've never been to San Diego, but I've been to New York Comic Con a couple of times, and I
Hmm.
was like, it is such a different vibe than a card show like the National. Like it makes the National feel boring. Like the like a large sports card show, whether it's the National or whatever, feel boring when you walk into a Comic Con. It's just a different energy level, like a
Hmm.
completely different vibe, and that's kind of what Fanatics Fest is. The angle I think that they're going for is they want that vibe.
Hmm. I think that's fair. So the national question is this: based on what's going to be going on there and a lot of the stuff you're going to be doing, the social, the meetings, and all that, but also hanging out and just looking for cars and all that, content wise, you're going to try to load up on a couple of vlogs or maybe just one to cover a big chunk of it, maybe a couple of small videos. Like, what's the thought process going into this one?
Probably just daily vlogs. Probably
Okay.
just like the day one, kind of what I did with for Fanatics Fest. Here's day one, here's day two, here's day three, etc. On the bigger shows like that, I usually like to break them up by day better. On the smaller show, like if I go to the ship show, that's a 2 day show. I'll just do one for the entire show because there's not as much going on there. I think there's so much going on at the National that you could easily break it up into multiple multiple days. Um,
Yep.
and my process for the vlog recording and editing is pretty streamlined now, so I can turn those videos. It takes me a lot longer than like a normal video, but I can still turn those around fairly quickly.
I'm just looking forward to it. I can already see it right now. Hello, YouTube people. Dear YouTube, day one. The AC is a lie. I'm just the new AC units. The new AC units have failed us, and it is only
So
day one.
here's the thing though. I looked last night and this morning. It's only as of right now, the highs are in the 70s.
That would be actually pretty reasonable. Although the mass of humanity would still raise the temperature in the room, so we'll have to see what happens.
Part of the problem with the Chicago National, particularly, is especially in 2023, was the humidity was so bad, and on day
Hmm.
one they had the doors open, setting everything up, and all the
Yeah.
humidity got into the room,
Yes.
and the air conditioning unit could not get it back out again, and then it couldn't keep up for the entire week. It was basically started with one hand tied behind its back and just could never
Hmm.
catch up. So if that's out of the way and it could start fresh and they have the new HVAC in, I think it might actually be okay. Especially with the temperatures the way that they're trying. Like the lows are in the 50s. Like it's actually looking like it's going to be more September-ish than late July, August-ish
You guys might have lucked
next week.
out, but that's important. Like right in the vlog, the very beginning, we need the logistics check, Wi-Fi check, AC
Yeah.
check, comfortable shoes check. Like we gotta run through the quick checklist of things for the daily vlogs. I think
That's
that's
all
gonna be part
everyone.
of the.
It's kind of weird that the Nationals this week and I don't want to say it's flying under the radar, but when your two biggest topics leading into your show are AC and Wi-Fi, that I don't know, something feels weird about that. Can't quite put my finger on it, but like that's what people are hyped up about is the fact that you have new HVAC and Wi-Fi. It's just let's just say it's a stark contrast from the lead up to Fanatics Fest versus the National when the talking points are AC and Wi-Fi versus the actual show itself.
Well, Neil, Geoff Wilson hasn't offered to do the PSA repacks at the National yet. If they do, the stampede of the people running for the eight Cards
Oh,
HQ
he's already
PSA
said
repacks.
they're going to be for sale at the National in the Cards HQ booth.
I think he needs to emphasize it more. I think he's to get the stampede going, Neil, to get the hype. He needs the hype for the people.
Maybe that's the Geoff Wilson podcast next week.
Amazing. That could be incredible. Could be incredible. It changed the hobby. I don't know if you know this. The hobby changed after that repack was created.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how yet,
that'll
but
be
it
the
changed.
IPL repack.
Oh man, I think right there. I think that nails it.
It's all PSA 7s, but they look like 10s.
I love it already. See, this is why you should just take the bag from PSA and get on with it. Let's just go. Let's go. All right. Last question. Last question for the conspiracy folks. A little bonus, a little Easter egg at the end for everybody. All right. You mentioned earlier in the conversation the Dallas card show theft, which yet to date remains unsolved. It has not been solved. So, Neil, Cards and Comics, what's your theory and why is it Eric? It's been a long time. There's been no update on this. The cards have not surfaced as far as we can tell. Nobody's been caught as far as we can tell. So was it an inside job? Was it in fact Eric, like I suspect? Like, what is your theory? What do you think?
I feel like if it was an inside job, we would have heard about that for sure by now. I know that
I would think so, but
I know the theories are out there, but I feel like
Yes.
that would be mainstream if there was enough proof to it to like lock it in.
Sure.
I think when that initially happened, I'd have to go back and listen to the video. But I think I said those cards are probably out of the country before the video even went live. I don't know. Those things just feel like they were gone. They've probably been cracked and resubbed to different companies. It's pretty easy to wash cards like that, especially graded ones, just because you can just crack it and send it to a different grading company.
Mm-hmm.
Even though might be some identifiers, you would never be 100% sure that it was exactly the same card.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That is one of the great hobby unsolved mysteries on the Dallas card show theft. And now, because we've all talked about this, the hobby has a memory of a goldfish. Nobody cares a week after because it's on to the next thing.
Yeah. That was the original. So the conversation was new when it was fresh and we were talking about it. I remember on the live, I was talking about it and Eric was convinced that they would find the person immediately, which is why I immediately cast suspicion on Eric, because this is like when OJ Simpson was trying to find the real killer on the golf course. He's taking us off the set, Neo. He knows something. He knows something.
I mean,
but
it is crazy. I mean, they had photos of a couple of the guys' faces that were
videos.
And they're just, that's why I said I think they left the country, because you would think they would have popped up by now in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, the reason, so jokes aside, the reason why I challenged it and why I was kind of poking fun at Eric is that he was convinced that with the coverage and us talking about it, yourself talking about it, a bunch of people talking about it, and there was video out there were still images, like there was stuff out there, he figured, they'd be caught in short order. And I said, well, the thing is, I told him at the time, I go, Eric, you're forgetting something very important. People are not observant at the best of times. I swear to you, some of these guys could be standing beside you at the grocery store and you don't know. You're not paying close enough attention. And there's no nationwide manhunt to find these guys. So I'm sitting there like, outside of the Dallas area, in that weekend, in that moment, who's searching for these people?
Yeah.
Dog the Bounty Hunter isn't doing it. So like, who's trying to find these people? So I'm sitting there like, I don't even think they needed to leave the country, Neo. I joked with him. I go, all they have to do is just hang out in the city until the show ends, and then waltz out. Nobody's looking for them. So that's
Yeah,
why I think it's gone this long.
I think that was one of the stories that actually leveled up to like real news outlets covered it, and it still really didn't make a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
I
But
think
that's the thing. Like, I don't think people are paying attention. Like, they're not.
yeah,
They're not staring at the images with a death stare, going, "I'll recognize this person." No, I don't think you are. I don't think that's what happened.
yeah. I think that's my second most popular video on my channel. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, nice. So it worked for the content gods. Hey, praise the
Yes,
content
the
gods on that one.
content gods were a piece. I think that one's in the mid. I've never had one truly pop off. I think that one's like in the mid 30s thousands for views.
Yeah, it was a great topic in the moment. People were definitely into it in the moment. That they gave theories. They had a whole bunch of stuff, a lot like to talk about. But then we forget. We move on.
It was funny. Thinking back on it now, I remember when that happened because it was a Sunday night, and it was late on a Sunday night East Coast time. And I remember laying in bed. I had just gone to bed and I was watching TV in bed and just kind of scrolling social and getting some DMs about stuff and playing catch up on it. And I remember laying there going, "Oh God, do I get up and record this? Do I get up and go downstairs and record this now, or can it wait till tomorrow?" And I'm just like, and I got up and recorded it and I posted it that night. And I debated because it was like almost probably 11 p.m. when I think I posted that video live, which is kind of a weird time to be posting a video. And I remember having the mental gymnastics of do I just set this to go now or do I wait until the morning to post it? And I was like, screw it. I'm just posting it. And I put it live and I went to bed. And I wake up for the morning on weekdays at 5:30 a.m. for work, East Coast time. And I woke up and I checked it, and you could see like the real-time views for the last 60 minutes. And I
Mhm.
pulled it up and I looked and I saw like how many views it had gotten from like 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh, we might be off to the races on this one because this video should not be pulling this many views at 4 o'clock in the morning East Coast time. So I was like, okay, I was the right decision was to get out of bed, record, and post it last night. So
These are the debates that have to happen. But Neo, on that note, I think right there, if nothing else, it is, if you give the praise to the content gods, they shall provide.
yeah.
Truly.
It's the being first to the content gods want who's first at the altar in a lot of cases.
Yes, of course. Show your respect and reverence with the quickness, and then they will reciprocate in kind. I
Yeah.
think it works out. All right, Neo, last word for you. Anything you want to promote or anything you want to say or anything throw out there right at the end? Last word's yours.
No, I got nothing crazy. Neo Cards and Comics on pretty much all the different social platforms. Yeah, next week will probably be dominated by national coverage. So apparently my 2000s video will be the weekly sports card market update tomorrow.
Exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. That is episode 2 of Praising the Content Gods. There will be an episode 3 at some point. We'll see how it goes, but I figured this would be an appropriate one since Neo 2 appreciates the Content Gods. So in that vein, we appreciate Praise the Content Gods as always. Thank you, Neo.
Yep. Thanks for having me on, Carlos.